Grace and peace, everybody. We are back. You didn't see a thumbnail. You didn't see a title because I got into the booth. I was looking through, checking the traps, and I found something that I was not prepared for. So I wasn't even ready to give my editor the information to give me a thumbnail. So, but you did see a title, though. You did see a description. What are we talking about? Fani Willis has been removed from the Trump RICO trial. And this is big business because this has been going on forever and a Tuesday, it seems like. And I guess, I don't know, they're trying to clear the traps for other things moving on. But the Georgia Supreme Court, let's go ahead and bring this in. Let's talk about it because Georgia Supreme Court has decided that, you know what? Yeah, Fani, them shenanigans you had going on, you and Nate Dogg, what y'all had going on. Yeah, we're not going to interrupt with that. All right, Georgia Supreme Court declines to hear Fani Willis' appeal of her removal from the Trump election case. It doesn't mean that the case is cooked. It doesn't mean that somebody else can't pick up the ball, and we'll actually talk about that in a second. What it does mean, however, is that Fani Willis will not be involved in it, and not just Fani Willis, but her whole department, her whole office. Everybody, as they like to say, has been removed from it. That's humongous. That is absolutely insane. But I mean, we kind of thought, we kind of anticipated this was going to eventually happen when the initial judge didn't kick her off the trial. We kind of thought he's just punting and let somebody else take the heat for it. Judge McAfee, of course, wanted somebody else to take the heat for it. And I think that's ultimately what has happened. Now the Georgia Supremes have said, yeah, we're going to leave this alone. So let's go ahead and talk about it. Let's go. Even if a new prosecutor wants to continue the path charted by Willis, it seems unlikely that Trump could be prosecuted now that he is a sitting president. And remember, Fani said she was going to sit and wait. Fani said she was going to be sitting outside 1600 for the last day that Trump is president to come on down on him. Well, ma'am, that's not going to be the case. Let's keep it going. And we know that this happened on just a few minutes ago, actually, at 9:22. Hold on one hot second. All right. Let's keep it dancing. Georgia's highest court has declined to consider Fulton County DA's Fani Willis's appeal of her removal from the Georgia election interference case against Donald Trump and others, citing an appearance of impropriety, that mendacity, the odor of mendacity created by the romantic relationship between that Willis had with special prosecutor Nathan Wade, whom she had hired to lead the case in the Georgia Court of Appeals in December, ruled that Willis and her office could not continue to prosecute the case. Now, the Court of Appeals said that she could not. She rolled it up to the Georgia Supremes. The Georgia Supreme said, nah, we're going to just stick with what the Court of Appeals, and we'll actually read the ruling in a second. Willis's misconduct during the investigation and prosecution of President Trump was egregious, and she deserved nothing less than disqualification. Steve Sadow, Trump's attorney in the Georgia case, said in a statement, shout out to Steve Sadow. Willis said she disagreed with the court's decision, but would direct her office to make the case file and evidence available to the prosecuting attorney's council of Georgia so it can appoint a new prosecutor to replace her. So this is why I said that the case isn't done for dunzos, as the kids would say, because the prosecuting attorney's council of Georgia can pass this to a DA in another area, like let's say, for example, Athens, Georgia, where the University of Georgia Go Dogs is, or down in Savannah, Georgia, or in Macon. I don't think Macon's too close. Maybe they could do Macon. They could actually, maybe they could give it to the prosecutor here in Cobb County. I live in Cobb County. They could give it to the prosecutor there and see if they want to run with it. I don't know. And the amount of money that's going to go into this and resources that are going to have to tackle this, I just don't think anybody wants it. I'm not trying to be funny. Just from when we were discussing it last summer, when we were reading through it every day and checking out the trial every day and such of that nature, I just don't think anybody really has money is tight. You know what I'm saying? We still paying these doggone magnum cum laude gas prices. Hey, Trump, what happened with that? Magnum cum laude gas prices. Money is coming. Money is getting a little funny. And so I don't know if people really have the stomach for a multi-million-dollar prosecution of a former president from what'll be 8 years ago. I don't think people want it, in my opinion. But let's keep going. I hope that whoever is assigned to handle the case will have the courage to do what the evidence and the law demand, Willis said in an emailed statement. Okay. But what if they look at it and they don't see it like you? You know, Fani, what if they look at it and say, hey, what in the world? What is this you done put on my shoulder? What is this you done put on my desk? This is crazy. Because remember, the law and the evidence, according to Fani Willis, would have brought justice in that YSL trial. And we saw what happened there. Maybe, just maybe, Willis, it's not exactly what you think it is. Willis in January asked the Georgia Supreme Court to review the ruling that the High Court on Tuesday declined in a 4-3 decision to take up the case. One judge didn't participate and one judge was disqualified. Okay. That means it will be up to the prosecuting attorney's counsel to find another prosecutor to take the case. That person could continue on the track that Willis had taken, decide to pursue only some charges or dismiss the case altogether. It could be difficult to find a prosecutor willing to take the case given its complex nature and the resources required. That's what I'm saying. Like this, again, I live here in Georgia. I'm not a law student or anything of that nature, but just listening to it, it does sound like it was a cobbled mess. It just seemed like there was a lot of moving parts, and it seemed like it was very pricey, very, very resource heavy. I don't see anybody doing it, but we'll find out. Even if a new prosecutor wants to continue the path charted by Willis, it seems unlikely that Trump could be prosecuted now that he's a sitting president. But there are 14 other defendants who still face charges in the case. A grand jury in Atlanta indicted Trump and 18 others in August 2023, using the state's anti-racketeering law to accuse them of participating in a wide-ranging scheme of illegally trying to overturn Trump's narrow 2020 presidential election loss to Democrat Joe Biden in Georgia. The alleged scheme included Trump calling Georgia's Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, urging him to help find enough votes to beat Biden. 4 people have pled guilty. The Georgia case was one of 4 criminal cases brought in 2023 against Trump. Justice Department Special Counsel Jack Smith abandoned 2 federal prosecutions after Trump won the November election. In his hush money case in New York, Trump was convicted of 34 counts, but received a sentence of no punishment. Willis had asked Georgia's High Court to consider whether the lower appeals court was wrong in disqualifying her based solely upon an appearance of impropriety and absent of finding of any actual conflict of interest or forensic misconduct. She also asked the state Supreme Court to weigh whether the Court of Appeals erred in substituting the trial court's discretion with its own in this case. No Georgia court has ever disqualified a district attorney for the mere appearance of impropriety without the existence of an actual conflict of interest. Willis filing says, well, guess what, Fani? They have now. So it goes without saying, boo. It's happened. We're in a world of first time evers. And now this is a first time. So go on with your bad self. And no Georgia court has ever reversed a trial court's order declining to disqualify a prosecutor based solely on an appearance of impropriety. Well, guess what? Today's a new day. Lawyers for Trump had argued in a court filing that the lower appeals court got it right and that Willis disqualification is mandated because it is the only remedy that could purge the taint of impropriety. I mean, where's the lie? I don't know. I don't see the lie. Let's see if there's any comments. There's no comments here. So shout out to Politico. This article is actually in the description. If you want to check it out for yourself, if I missed anything, please let me know. But I do want to look at very quickly. We don't have to be super long on this, but the actual, pull this over here so I can read it over here. All right, here is the actual motion. So let's go ahead and get that in. That's pretty good. The Supreme Court of Georgia, and there is that good old Georgia seal. We've seen that multiple times if you follow my channel during YSL. All right, we're not going to read all 33 pages of this, but here is the Honorable Supreme Court met pursuant to adjournment. The following order was passed. These are the people that's State versus Roman, State versus Schaefer, State versus Cheeley and Meadows, and of course, Donald J., State versus Latham, Giuliani, Clark, and Floyd. The Supreme Court today denied the petition of Certuri. I know I butchered that up. Please be merciful to me, you all. In these cases, all the justices concur, except Ellington, McMillan, and Colvin, who dissent. Peterson, CJ not participating, and Land J Land disqualified. Supreme Court of the state of Georgia, I certified, of course, and this is the clerk that has signed that this was, of course, submitted. So let us go. Pension justice concurring in denial of Centurii. I'm going to probably get a lot of comments about how I butchered that. Certurii, that sounds right. I agree that the court's decision to deny these petitions for the Certurii, here's why. That is probably the best sentence I've ever read in reading all of these court cases. Here's why. Here's why. Usually it's something long and robust, right? It is say, look, I agree. Here's why. The court's power to review cases in the Court of Appeals has already reviewed. What we call review by Centurii is set by our state constitution. The Georgia Constitution grants our court the authority to review by, why are they killing your boy like this? Certurii, only cases in the Court of Appeals which are of gravity or great public importance. Georgia Constitution 1918, we already know that. This means that we generally do not grant Centurii review just because the Court of Appeals or the trial court may have gotten something wrong. That is for the mere error correction. Okay. And I'm going to skip over all of this political speak right there, but you see that I'm just blitzing through it. Please make sure that you the link for this is actually down in the description. So you're welcome to go over this. And if you can pronounce that word correctly and you want to tell me how to pronounce it correctly and write it out phonetically, you know what? I will not be mad at you. I will still be your friend, even though you embarrass me because I have no idea how to pronounce it. All right, let's keep it dancing. Nor do we typically grant review just because a case or its subject matter happens to have found its way into the public spotlight. Who wrote this, man? I love this person. Whoever wrote this, whoever wrote this, email me. You're my new best friend. Instead, our focus is assessing whether a case warrants the exercise of our Centurii jurisdiction is supposed to be its potential impact on the law of Georgia. To argue that impact, we ask whether the case presents a legal question of gravity or great importance to the public. Okay. All right. And I'm going to skip over all that right there. We typically assess whether a given legal question has sufficient gravity by asking, for example, whether the Court of Appeals has decided the question in a way that conflicts with our decision of the court, other decisions of the Court of Appeals, or this court. Answer the legal question by applying precedent of this court that should be reconsidered or decided an important question of state law that is likely to recur has not been, but should be settled by the court of Georgia. These non-exclusive examples reflect the aim of Centuriae review, ensuring that our court's interpretation of the law of Georgia is correct, settled, and ultimately uniform with respect to important legal issues that courts and litigants are likely to see in the future. They said, look, y'all not going to be suing presidents all the time. So like, don't even get into that habit. Okay. This is great. I like the way they wrote this though. Shout out to them. It is super long. I just looked up like this thing's 30 something pages, man. I'm not going over all that. I'm not going to do all that. But I do want to just point this out. But identifying a legal question of sufficient gravity is not enough on its own to warrant Centuriae review. That question must also be presented by the case when it arises at this court. Although our Constitution entrusts this court with the responsibility to settle important legal questions, we are still a court, and courts are not vehicles for engaging in merely academic debates or deciding purely theoretical questions. Okay. Thus, I don't see any squiggly lines in here. Thus, even if a party has identified a question of gravity in a given case before granting review, we still must ask whether the answering of that question of gravity is necessary in some way to resolving the case. If not, for example, if answering that question wouldn't matter to the outcome of the underlying case, or if the question was not even squarely presented to or decided by the courts below, then reaching out to decide that question anyway would exceed our limited judicial role. Yeah, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to tap a lawyer to ask them, do they want to go over this with me? Because I understand it, and I'm scared because I actually think I understand this. I'm like, wait, I think I understand what they're saying. And I'm a little bit scared, like, oh my gosh, either A, I'm wrong, or B, I might be actually learning something over here. What I'm getting is, what they're saying is, you can't just ask us to get this because you don't like the response from the lower courts. Do you have something? There's not something in your argument that they looked at that they just ignored, but rather they said that the impropriety, which is outside of your case, is the reason why. So you can't just say, well, you don't want to be disqualified, so I'm gonna go up to, can I see your manager? No, you can't. This is basically saying, no, you can't see the supervisor. Is basically what I'm understanding. I'm going to reach out to somebody right now because I'm worried. And I'm going to tell her, like, look, I'm worried because I think I understand this. But so long story short, y'all, Fani Willis has been taken off the case. It's going to be a dumpster fire. I don't perceive this going anywhere else. I don't think it's going to go anywhere else. The Georgia Court of Appeals, the Georgia Prosecutors Council, they're going to probably try to punt this to Athens. Athens is big enough. Cobb County is big enough, and they probably have the money to do it, but I doubt highly they're going to want to do it. That's just my little 2 cents. And some of these other small counties here in Georgia, Bibbs County, South Fulton, they're not going to want to do this, man. They just don't have the resources. And the amount of time it's going to take for Fani Willis's team to transition this over to another prosecutor, for them to understand it, them to dig through the weeds, them to do all of their due diligence. I mean, easily 3 years could pass. I could easily see multiple years going by because there's just going to be a lot of moving pieces. So I don't think this is going to go anywhere though, but let me know what y'all think for sure. I'm getting my email ready. This is crazy, man. All right. Shout out to everybody who jumped into the best live chat on the internet. Thank you so much. I appreciate y'all. I am real quick. I'm going to ask somebody, can they help me understand it? And then I'll let you all know when she hits me back. We can, we'll do a live stream with him. All right, there we go. But shout out to y'all. Thank you so much. If you're just jumping in, what are we talking about today, Jason? In my quick impromptu live stream, Fani Willis has been removed from the Georgia by the Georgia Supremes from the Trump election interference case. So now we're going to see what happens next. I honestly, again, I'm not a legal expert. I just can't see another county here in Georgia wanting to take this case up. It really did seem like a special kind of project for Fani. And now that Fani has been removed from it, I can't see somebody else saying, oh, we'll take up your pet project. We'll run with it. I just can't see that happening, but we will see. Indeed, we will see. I do want to say before I jump too far and real quick, thank y'all so much for everybody jumping in. JT2000, thank you so much for hopping in. There's my sister, Kiana. I love you. Thank you so very much for popping in. Willis says, Queen Fani. Absolutely. What's going on, sunshine? Good morning, all. What does Kathy say here? Kathy says here, I am new to this situation. Is Fani one of the good guys or one of the bad guys? Legalese makes my brain ache. All right, well, if you want to say Fani is the one, I'm not going to tell you if she's a good guy or a bad guy. I will just say Fani is the one who in 2023 brought Trump up on RICO charges here in Georgia, the infamous Trump mugshot. She was the one that's responsible for that. And sure, there was some shenanigans that happened here in Georgia and some things. So there was a lot of weird stuff that happened during that election on both sides and in the middle. So she was the one that brought up charges on Trump, but she had hired her boyfriend, who was married at the time, to run point on the case. And it just completely blew up in her face. And for the most part, the whole trial was derailed because she and Nathan Wade, her boyfriend, were having a relationship. She paid him a ton of money. They did lots of traveling. It was a mess. So I'm not saying she's a good guy or a bad guy, because I think she thought that she was going to do something right for justice, if you will. I'm just going to say there was just a lot of shenanigans and chicanery and tomfoolery that was going on here in Georgia. And that's it. So Q, was that a good summary, Q? What's going on, Caustic Chameleon? Good to see you. The happy dance is going on. Yeah. So that is it. So we're gonna see what happens here, but I'm gonna pretty much, I got the fork ready. I'm gonna stick a fork in that Trump case. I don't think it's gonna go anywhere. I really don't. I don't think anybody here. I don't think anybody here in Georgia really wants this to go any further. And I'm not saying you do it only because of people's opinions, but I don't think in the grand scheme of things, most people's concerns are not this issue right here. Not even a little bit. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure most people in Georgia have forgotten about this. Let's just be honest. I think a lot of us forgot about this. And had I not, I have an alert to let me know if anything happens with certain things when I'm checking the traps. And that's the only reason I found out about this today, is because the alert, because I had kind of forgotten about it. So every day it updates me and I just kind of move on past. I don't even remember. I almost forgot what it was even about. So I'm going to go, if I forgot about it, and I've talked about Fani Willis quite a bit, and I did the YSL trial and I've looked at this, I'm pretty sure the average person has kind of forgotten about this case. So I'm going to go on a limb and say the Georgia, what is it called? The Georgia Prosecutor Council? The Prosecuting Attorneys Council of Georgia. I'm going to go on a limb and say they're going to probably put that thing, they're going to go ahead and take it behind the woodshed and put it out of its misery. Nobody's going to pick this up. Just my opinion. But I will, hey, if I'm wrong, they bring Trump down here to Georgia for trial, you know, I'm going to go down there for y'all. I'm going to go down there. I mean, that'll be what? At least 2028, 2029. Yeah, 2029. So, dang. Man, that's a while. So anyway, if they do, but I'm not putting 10 cents on that. That means that those resources are going to have to be held up for 4 years until his out. And his attorneys are going to be wreaking havoc on him. So that's going to be money that's going to be wasted from Bibbs County, from Athens County, from Cobb County, from wherever. Man, don't nobody want that. Nobody wants that. And this is actually another great point. Shout out to Kiana. Fani Willis actually has other issues, and the Georgia Senate has wanted to talk to her about how she spends money in her office. Fulton County is the largest county in Georgia, well, the second largest county in Georgia, and they spend a lot of money. And she's been spending a lot of money, and nobody knows where it's been going. And so, yeah, this is actually another issue that she has. And I think now that Trump is off of her plate, she can focus on why she has not answered the Georgia Senate, because they want to have a little conversation. They just want to have a little, come on over here for a little coffee, a little spot of tea. They want to talk to Fani. They want to have a little dialogue with Fani. And yeah, so that's going to be interesting. I don't know where that is in the food chain. Y'all hold on one hot second. Let me give y'all the be right back. The smartest people I've known or read about ask for advice. Well, there you go. So you're saying that my daughter's smart. I like how you did that. She's a pretty smart kid, though. Where is Thug's watch? We need to go back and do a whole recap, the lore of Young Thug's watch. Like just a lore. You know what, Q? I'm putting you on that. Q, I need you to get me all the details about Young Thug's watch, and we will make a video. We'll do a live stream about Young Thug's watch. And if you all don't know, during the Young Thug trial here, the YSL trial here in Georgia, again, I know you can't believe this, right? There was a lot of shenanigans that happened during the YSL trial. And one of the biggest, most gross pieces of shenanigans and chicanery is that there was asset forfeiture, which basically means if the police take this and you have so many days, they arrest somebody and they take something of theirs that has value, you have so many days to request that it be given back. Otherwise, the police can sell it and use that money to fund things in the police. Well, I mean, that's the skinny of it. Well, when they raided Young Thug's house, of course, he's a rapper. There's a lot of rapper stuff, jewelry and money, guns, cars, all that kind of stuff like that. Well, there's this infamous watch, and I forgot what it's called. It's a watch. It's a big old gaudy watch. It looks, it was definitely not my jam at all. It would be like, it was huge, just like a giant watch. It looked like that. It was just insane. What was the name of it? Q. Well, needless to say, he had two of them, and we watched the body cam of the police doing the inventory. There were two watches there. They turn around, and then the watch is gone. There it is, Richard Mill. And it was this big, gaudy, it was just big for no reason. Like, you can't even tell time with the thing. It's so big. Like, you can tell time from space, but you didn't know what you were looking at. It was humongous. Well, the rumor was that, one of the police officers took it home, if you will. They stole it. That's basically what we're arguing. And this has been a lore for so long. They even had a case more recently about the asset forfeiture that Fani had to give back all the assets that they confiscated, and they still can't find this infamous watch. So, I don't know much about it. I'm not a watch guy by any means or measure. So, but anyway, so if you ever want, maybe one day Q is going to be on it. Q is going to put together the whole story. Richard Millie. Not sure about the spelling, but he's got it from Drake. Okay. Well, yeah, I think that sounds right. Why is there still even a RICO case against President Trump in Georgia? It's been so compromised because of Fani should have dropped it by now. Well, Fani was not going to drop it. Fani was for lack of a better term, Fani was hell bent on this case going. She even said she was going to bring it back up when he got out of office. And shout out to you, Eric Smith. But Georgia Supreme said, nah, you off the case. So Fani's off the case. Love is off the case. Hilton's off the case. The whole Fulton County DA's office is off the case. And it gets punted, just in case you were wondering, to the Prosecuting Attorneys Council of Georgia. And they are going to decide who can take the case and who would take the case after this. So that being the case, how many times I said the word case, right? I sound like Umar Johnson. That being what's going on, I don't think, just, knowing what I've learned about this case, this thing was really expensive. It was really expensive. And I can't see any other DA's office, and I could be wrong now, really wanting to take this on, because it's going to be a Herculean task. It's going to be a very pricey case. And I just can't see anybody else wanting to do it. Young Thug made the Coachella lineup. Really? That was not a watch. That was a big clock. So I don't think, personally, I will be watching to see, and I'm going to set up a new alert. I would love to hear what the Prosecuting Council of Attorneys of Georgia, whatever, decides to do. I would love to hear them say what they're gonna do in this, because it's just, I don't see how anybody would want to do it. I mean, the amount of resources it's going to take is going to be Herculean. When you think about how long, for example, this whole case between the Macrones and Candace Owens, that's not even that's not even like a salacial case. It's just a civil trial, right? That thing is estimated to take 3 years, if not more. Easily 3 years. That's one woman being sued by one entity. Now imagine 18 entities being sued by Fulton County or Cobb County or Bibbs County, Athens County, fill in the blank. These people's grandkids will be able to vote by the time that trial is over with. It's just not going to happen. Yeah, I just don't see it happening. And one more reason why I don't think it would happen is because the Atlanta cheating scandal, which, by the way, Fani Willis was an ADA on the Atlanta cheating scandal. And that was the first RICO trial that was for drug gang criminal elements. It was like the weirdest thing here in Georgia. They're still dealing with the Atlanta cheating scandal. And that was almost 13 years ago. I mean, the kids that were caught up in the cheating scandal have been working for 10 years by now. I mean, that's how long it's been. So I just don't think anybody would want to deal with this, in my opinion. I don't think anybody would want to deal with this, in my humble opinion, but we'll see. I will definitely keep y'all posted. What is going on? Is that the messy one? Thank you so much. Y'all, Messy Michonne is in the building. Dropping your boy a $5 super sticker. Thank you so much. And she is a beautiful content creator. If you ever want a good laugh, please go check out what Messy Michonne is doing over there. Fantastic work. I don't know what you have planned today, but I'm sure it's going to be something great. So y'all go check out what she's doing over there. Make sure that her link is dropped in the chat. You can drop your link in the chat, by the way, Michonne, if it's not already there. I'm just looking right here. So anyway, the new prosecutor decides how to handle the case. But how do they get it, though? The council appoints another prosecutor. So they could just appoint a prosecutor out in Athens or Bibbs County or Clark County. And then that prosecutor will say, you know what? Yeah, about this. Yeah, I'm going to let this go. Okay. I like that. I mean, it makes sense. That's what I would probably think anyway. So Thank y'all so much for rocking with me. Everybody have a wonderful rest of the day. Look for the thumbnail. As soon as I hear back, I'll let you all know if I'll be coming back this evening and go over the fullness of this case. So until next time, everybody, have a great, blessed rest of the day. Grace and peace. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Jay Witt Podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, please do me a favor and hit me up with that 3-piece special. Like the video, subscribe, and of course, share it with somebody who would also enjoy this type of content. And make sure you leave a comment because I do pin the best comments to the top. So thank you so much for tuning in today. And until next time, everybody, grace and peace.